I love it. We are going to move into one of folks' favorite sessions, is talking to some of our Gap Year alum. So before I invite them onto the stage, what I would love is if you guys have questions for our Gap Year alum. So you've heard from Jazz and I, you've heard from all of these like grown-ups, I'm using air quotes there, grown-ups, who have a different perspective. But Samira and Hardeep, who are coming in, are going to give you the real deal. They're gonna spit the truth, tell about their experience. So if you have questions that you want to ask, now is the time to pop them into the chat. I've got some questions that I want to ask them, but this is your show. So I want you guys to pop those questions into the chat. And I am going to bring them on stage with me. So come join me. Hello, Samira. Hello, Hardeep. How are you?
Hey. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Hardeep.
Hello, I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Doing
Awesome.
great.
Awesome. The gang is all back together here. Let me take off these shades. Although my lights are pretty bright, it felt pretty good to wear them. So welcome to our alum panel. We are so grateful for you guys for coming and sharing your stories with us. I would love if you guys could just give a little bit of an introduction, maybe who you are, where you are in the world, what stage of life you're at. And yeah, that would be a very good little intro for us. So we'll go Samira and then Hardeep.
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Samira and I am from Quito, Ecuador. When I started my gap year, my family and I moved to Canada and I am currently back in Ecuador. Yeah, I really love being creative. I love art, learning languages, and like learning anything new, really. And I am currently working at a company here in Ecuador.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool, and my name's Hardeep. I'm from Toronto, and before living in Toronto, I used to my background is living in New Delhi, India. I am currently in my first year of university, and fun fact about me, I'd say is that I know the prayers of 5 religions, but I'm not really religious. So, and yeah, that's it for me.
I love it. And you're repping the Western purple today, it looks like.
I am, yes.
I don't miss anything. I pick up on all the things. Very cool. So maybe we'll start off with the backstory to your gap year. What were some of the deciding factors that led you to deciding that a gap year was the right choice for you? Maybe we'll do the reverse this time. Hardeep, you're up first, and then Samira.
Yeah, 100%. So, well, I don't know about you guys, but when COVID hit for me, I was in my grade 11 year. And well, in my grade 11 year, I already didn't know what the heck I wanted to do, and COVID just made it a lot more worse. And now it's just everything's a bit way more confusing. And when I'm in the grade 12 year, it was also all virtual for my class of 2021 too. So I think the gap year seemed the best option for me because if I didn't take it, it seemed like I was going in a career that I wasn't even sure I was going in. Like I was going in film production before, and to compare to now, I am in my first year and I'm pursuing computer science and business, which is completely opposite. So it just kind of like shows how much the gap year really gave me clarity. So that's why I took the gap year pretty much. And of course, I didn't want to start university on my computer. So there's that.
I love that. And we're going to come back to that kind of transformation a little bit later, but I think
Yeah.
you've planted a good seed about how much you can learn about yourself and where you want to go on your gap year. Samira, what about you?
Yeah, for me, it was something similar to what happened to Hardeep because I was also in grade 11 when COVID hit, and it just made things way more complicated. I already knew we were moving to Canada with my family, so that was also a factor for me, the life changes that were coming. and I really didn't know what to do or what to expect. Like coming out of high school with a really strong curriculum and like a huge academic load, I was really like tired and burned out. So I wanted to like have time for myself and to be able to recover from that and come back to post secondary more energized and ready.
Yeah, I think that's so important to recognize that feeling of burnt out. I don't know very many grown-ups that have done something for 14 years straight without taking a break. And that's what we ask students to do, is we ask them to go hard for a really, really long time without taking a break. But the gap year allows you to push pause a little bit. So I'm so grateful that you recognize that in yourself. And I'm sure some folks who are watching also feel that way. So maybe folks can pop their why into the chat, so Samira and Hardeep can also see what's brought you to the decision to take a gap year as well. Now, gap years aren't always roses and sunshine and rainbows. There are challenges that kind of come up along your journey. So I'm sure everybody in the chat, everybody watching, is nervous about some of these challenges. So maybe you can kind of shed some light on what your biggest challenge was, and then how did you approach that challenge, or how did you overcome it? And we'll do Samira, then Hardeep.
Yeah, for me, I'm a big overthinker. So, yeah, I always talk to Michelle and Jazz about this, and I was really indecisive about everything. Like I investigated all the possible options for everything, and that got me stuck. So that was one of the biggest challenges that I had, like to actually stick with something and go through with it. So yeah, I would say that to be able to get to that point, I had to like spend at least a few months in that like mindset of like wanting to try to control everything. But like as the year passed and I got to like have new experiences, I was able to like get out of my head a little bit, and that helped me a lot to actually stick with what I chose. And yeah, just try new things without like planning too much in advance. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's kind of a couple types of people in this world. There are people that just can fly on a whim, do whatever they want, and just roll with it. And then there are planners that like to have a plan, like to have structure, and you kind of fall in one of those two camps. But if you are a planner, when you have a gap year of just like infinite decisions to make and infinite possibilities, that is an extremely overwhelming feeling, to just not know where do you even start, where do you anchor, where do you commit to something, because I think there's also like this fear that something better is going to come along. If I commit to something, I'm going to miss out on that next thing that's going to show up in my inbox tomorrow. And then we end up just waiting, and time passes. And then we come to the end of our gap year and are like, ooh, I missed it. I missed the opportunity. So I think that's great that you were able to work through some of that. And I'm really proud of a lot of that internal work that you did, to really figure out who you are and what motivates you, and to start recognizing where some of those challenges were, because it was awesome to see you move to a place where you were like, no, I'm ready to take action. I can do this. And that was really awesome to watch.
Thank you, Michelle.
All right, Hardeep, what was your biggest obstacle? Was it similar or different to Samira?
Yeah, it is. I'll say my biggest obstacle was well, sort of procrastination, but not exactly. Well, how I like to uh, how I like to portray this is that the one good thing I like about traditional school, like not being in a gap year, is always that school provides you a bit of structure, that you have like everything going on for all throughout the year. So like if you want to have some commitment or opportunities alongside school, you put in there. And even though they're not relevant to school at all, just because you have that sense of flow with the school, you just do that thing that you set out to do. But with the gap year, it's like you literally have the whole year. So like it's like, whoa, what day do I put this thing I want to do? And it's like all of our days are free. So it's like there's literally ample lot of time. And I feel like one of my, like, I didn't have a job in my first 5 months of my gap year, like, and I think that was a small mistake I made. I think that's one thing, like, it doesn't even have to be a job, but one thing that I think that I would do if I could change my gap year would be that to have like some sort of regular commitment that kept me accountable to and kept me in the sense of flow to keep me going throughout the year. And if I had, and which will pretty much help me in my other pursuits and opportunities.
Yeah. And that again is also very common. And it kind of shows up in this fear of wasting time. But then when you get into it, you're like, oh, I've got so much time. I can do that tomorrow or later, or I have so much time. I will get to all of these things on my list. And Hardeep, I think you know the name of the law where it
Yeah,
will fill
Parkinson's
whatever
law. Yeah.
time. What's it called?
Parkinson's law.
Can you elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, it's Parkinson's law is pretty much um like the more time you allow for a thing, a task, it's gonna take that long. Like if you give an assignment 30 days to do, it'll take you 30 days to do it. If you give it 2 days, you will get it done. That's why most people, they're like cramming near tests and cramming for assignments like a night before it's due and stuff. And somebody get 11:59 just because that Parkinson's law kicking in. I think, yeah, it's pretty much that. Like when there's no deadlines, you need to have some sort of deadline for yourself, and that takes a lot of self-discipline, which is, I think, a big thing in your gap year. Because your parents are not gonna just always be um help disciplining you and just like scolding you and stuff. Like you gotta get your own stuff together.
Big time, big time. Yeah, I think Parkinson's law is like one of those should be one of those, like, we should have like a little alarm that goes off every time we're falling into that pattern, because we all know it, like through school, if you've got 20 minutes to get that paper done, you're going to get it done in 20 minutes. And if you've got all night, you end up farting around doing whatever, and it takes the whole night. And I know, Hardeep, you had some of that happen with your scholarship applications, perhaps.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. So Hardeep spent probably a full-time job's worth amount of time applying for scholarships and programs and perfecting that. And I got on his butt a little bit and made him shorten his timelines. So
Yeah, that was unnecessary.
Well, we got to make sure we get our stuff done, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious, in Jazz's talk, she was talking about failure and challenges, but she was also talking about the importance of community. And I'm not seeing any questions come in here. I'm sure you guys have questions for these guys. Pop them in the chat. Or like, what challenges are you foreseeing? And maybe they have some suggestions for you. Use these guys while they are here. So she was also talking about community, and that's what Gap Year Frosh Week is all about. That's what the Discord server is all about. That's what the game plan and accelerator are all about. So how did you guys form community? What did you do to have community on your gap year? And we'll go Hardeep and then Samira.
Yeah, so for me, well, the Frosh Week for me last year was like big help, because yeah, that's where I met Samir and like a bunch of other people in our small group. Like we made like Instagram group chats, and we have like call every other week or so. And I'm still connected to so many of them. Like me and Rena just met 2 weeks ago in Toronto. Osman lives in Calgary, but we we hop on a call every once in a while. So that was a big resource for me, thanks to Michelle. And there's this app called meetup.com. It's an app and a website, and you can find like a lot of events on there, just random events happening around your city. And I think there's more events when you live in like a big city and like Toronto, and I think that's like a really good place to find events and just meet really cool people. In the summer, I went to a lot of these meetup events. So random events. Some were like hiking, some were related to this thing called effective altruism that I'm interested in, and there was some random rooftop parties going on that anyone could come to. Like there was way too many cool events happening. I just went up to them, kind of felt weird being alone and stuff, but they're really welcoming and you find really cool people. So those two were like my biggest resources.
And what I love about that is you found community within the gap year space, but also kind of like cross age level, cross interest
Yeah.
groups as well, because when we're a high school student, we're often friends with the people that are in our grade and like maybe one grade older or younger. But when you get out of high school, all of a sudden you become friends that are with people that are 5 years, 10 years older than you. And you can align yourself with people that have the same values as you, not necessarily in high school that they have the same geography as you. They were in the catchment area for your high school, therefore you became friends. When you're on your gap year, you can choose anybody around the world that you want to hang out with.
Exactly.
And you can find those people that are values aligned or interest aligned, or people that motivate you rather than drag you down.
Yeah, exactly. Like I organized this event on meetup.com back in August. And yeah, it's like I was the youngest person there, and like the closest people that I'm still friends with today are like 35 and 40. So they're like not close as my age at all.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they're awesome, right?
Yeah.
It's so cool. All right, Samira, do you have any comments on community? And then we're going to jump into some of the questions on the side here.
Yeah, like for me, Frosh Week was also a big thing because that's where it all started. At least like I felt so much like connection and interaction from Frosh Week onwards. So it was really cool to be able to have the Discord and like meet everyone from our gap year, um, starting from Frosh Week. And afterwards, we also had the accountabilities, they're called, that Hardeep organized too. And we met for like an art club with other friends within the Gap Year community. And it was really cool. Other than that, I was able to like get into the RISE program, which Michelle also like posted on the Discord. So everything was like mostly through the Discord as well. So through the RISE program, I was also able to meet so many cool people that are like working in Winnipeg for the community. And yeah, I also made really cool friends from there, and they're also way older than me. But as Hardeep said, like you get to meet people from many other ages and backgrounds. So yeah, that was mostly my experience finding community during my gap year.
Yeah, and you did a great job too tapping into the arts communities through dance and visual arts, and finding those people that had that similar passion and could help you explore it from an artistic skill perspective, but also from like a career perspective, and see where that might align or not align with where you wanted to go with your career.
Yeah, that was really nice too, because there were many places in Winnipeg that offered like free programming for arts. And that was something that I really enjoyed, that I was able to like share that space and like have like there were like ceramic classes, but also drawing classes, film classes, digital drawing classes. So it was like a lot of different materials and disciplines within the arts that I was able to experience, and that like on my own it would have been totally different. So it was really cool.
And I'm going to ask both of you, you guys can jump in if you want, but how did you find the confidence to do those things? Because all of those things are getting out of your comfort zone for sure, especially after 2 years of being socially isolated and becoming more awkward as human beings, because we all have. But how did you find the confidence to find these opportunities or make these opportunities or join up with other people?
I can go first. I feel like it's mostly just about like beating that fear in the starting. After that becomes really easy. Like I think I think pretty much all the events I've been to where I'm like the only person who's like I'm just going there by myself and all these people are older and stuff. It's like there's that uneasy feeling in the starting, but then I get there, it's like, wow, no one really knows each other here either. So it's like I just start talking and I'm pretty extroverted, so it works out really well. And it's like, wow, I was really stressing for no reason at all. And then after one or two of these instances, it's like after that became so normal that I was just like I started to organize these events, and it's like yeah, it's really not that big of a deal. I think it's all in just in our head. It's just like, there's this saying, I read this book, it's called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And I really like that because it's literally the epitome of like, kind of seeking the discomfort, just doing it anyway. And that's pretty much how you like discover new waters and about step out of your comfort zone.
I love it.
Yeah, it's definitely harder at the beginning, but I think personally it took me longer to feel comfortable with it because it was a new city and everything. But like eventually, like it became normal to feel uneasy, so it was easier to work through it. Like for me, that was what it looked like. And I also went to many different places, so I got used to like seeing new faces. And yeah, after 2 years of being online, it was strange to like get to an in-person setting. Well, there were also times where we went back online for some of the things that I used to do, which was a bit a bit of a bummer. But yeah, I think it's mostly like just throwing yourself at it and then seeing what happens, because that's where experiences like emerge from.
I love it. Now I'm seeing some questions in the chat here. So Naomi's talking about feeling FOMO right now and feeling like she's falling behind. Have you guys are just fresh out the other end of that. So what say you about FOMO and falling behind?
Honestly, I didn't feel a lot of it because I got really busy in the starting of my gap year. Like I was like working a nonprofit and wasn't involved in that. I had a math courses to do, so it's like I feel like because I was so busy, I didn't even get time to feel the FOMO, if that makes sense. So, yeah, my advice would be to get yourself involved, and you'd be like, oh, those losers are in their books right now. I'm doing really cool things. I don't need that FOMO. I think you'll figure that out pretty well.
Yeah, FOMO is really tricky. For me, it was about like friends back home, and yeah, them doing a ton of stuff together and going to university together in some cases. But I would say there's like a way to balance staying connected with friends while also not giving it too much space in your mind, because I think that's where overthinking kicks in. So I totally agree with what Hardeep said about keeping yourself busy and like establishing goals for what you want to do. so that you like have like a path to follow. And yeah, just balancing contact with friends, but not, yeah, completely centering on what they are doing, but what you want to do and what you want to achieve.
I think those are both some great pieces of advice. So make sure you have something planned for the next little bit. Do something really exciting. Keep yourself busy. We are creatures of comparison, and there's a quote that I love that comparison is the thief of all joy. That when we compare ourselves to somebody else, it takes away the joy in what we're doing and what we're accomplishing and the goals we're setting for ourselves, because we're constantly looking to somebody else, and we're looking to somebody else for validation that we are enough. And it feels like if everybody else is doing something else, they're the standard and we are not enough. But when we step into the power of what you are about to go into and you start finding those wicked experiences, you can keep yourself busy and you can get really amazing experiences under your belt, and the FOMO will flip. All of a sudden your friends will be jealous of all the things that you're doing while they're writing their midterms. And then also building new community. Like Samira was saying, don't put your old life at the center of your gap year experience. This is a time for you to stay in touch with your old friends, but also branch out and make memories of your own, make a new community of your own, because that's what they're doing in their university settings as well. So we want you to also start to establish that. So that's a great question, Naomi, sorry. And let's see, what are the other questions in here? Aisha is anxious about deadlines, about finishing courses and time to apply for university. Any advice on that?
Finishing courses, as in you're doing asynchronous courses, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
My advice for that, I feel like it all, like I mentioned before, I think it all really comes down to self-discipline. And I think the best solution right now would be to make a lot solid deadlines for yourself, and try to, well, you won't always be able to stay accountable to them, but try your best to stay as close as possible, to be accountable, to be close to following them. And I feel like then you should be fine, and like, have some sort of incentive that if you like, if you keep at the plan you made up for yourself, you'll reward yourself with something, where at the end of the thing, like after you finish your course, you'll do something cool, like you have something going on, like, I don't know, like probably enrolling yourself in a program. Like if you want to finish your course by, say, October, enroll yourself in like a program or a boot camp or something in November in advance, so you really have to finish the course by October, so you're pretty much pressuring yourself. So I think that's one way you could really get yourself to finish your courses. And don't feel too anxious about it. And you have ample lot of time. It just comes down to self-discipline. And I feel like if you're so dedicated about your courses, then not finishing them shouldn't be a problem.
Awesome. Do you want to add something, Samira?
Yeah, I found personally really helpful. I didn't have to take different courses for admission, but for self like deadlines that I wanted to achieve, I found it really helpful to have someone that holds you accountable, and that comes back to community for me as well, because I feel that when you have someone who has similar goals as you, you can push each other, and that helps a lot in like feeling like like most of all when you're online, because like you feel so disconnected from other people, and like just having someone that you know that you can connect with, and that like if it works for you to talk to someone else and have an accountability meetup or something like that, I think that will help you with the anxiety of it, because if that person like has the ability to support you and you to that person, then the time that you spend together talking about it will be somewhat of a relief, and also like having the relief of knowing that you'll be able to also have the chance of getting it out of your head a bit. Like it's not all on you, it's not all on your shoulders, but you also have someone else supporting you.
I love that. I love that shared accountability. And I really like making space, making bandwidth in your head, and putting it down on paper. You have a schedule, then you don't have to worry about it. The more structure you can put in, the accountability piece that you put in allows it to come out of your head and onto a piece of paper or into a digital document, so you don't have to use that bandwidth to always be thinking about it. Because us overthinkers, that's what we do. We stay up at night with all of these things going through our head, and you can just say, no, brain, stop worrying about that. It's on the paper. I know what I got to do tomorrow and the day after and the day after, so my course is done on time. And it just lets your brain kind of go a little bit at ease for that. And that could be really helpful, so that anxiety doesn't keep building up for you. You've got a plan, you're going to stick to it. Somebody's going to hold you accountable. And then you can let it go. Cool. Now, Samira and Hardeep, you guys were both enrolled in CanGap programming last year, working on the game plan and working towards the award that we offer, which is the Student of Leadership and Humanity Award. I'm curious what your experience was with that, and how did that play into your gap year, and how you are different as a person now than you were before. Yeah. No, just this tiny question.
I really loved that it gave me a bit more of structure, and every single pillar of the game plan has so many resources. Like, I'm a big fan of compiling resources, so I found it amazing that everything's in one place and that you get to check whatever you want from that long list of resources that you get. And yeah, the structure of it, that it's a structure, but it's still flexible. Like you can apply it to whatever is going on with you at that time in your gap year. And that's what I really like about it. The game plan makes you evaluate what do you want to work on right now, and also gives you like a map of what a holistic gap year experience would look like with all the pillars. And yeah, that's what I love about it.
Yeah, and I think you did a really good job diving into a lot of those pieces. And I could see from like our one-on-one calls that you were really learning a lot about yourself. And once you learned about yourself, it kind of trickled out into all the things that you were tackling. And while everything is connected, tackling everything all at once is too much. And so being able to say, no, right now for me, I'm working on a budget. So I'm going to really tap into those personal finance resources that are there. Or I don't know what I want to do with my life. I'm going to tap into like the My Future pillar and go into some career planning, or whatever is going on for you. You can pick and choose what is going to be the most helpful for you, and then just choose to apply it to your life without cramping the rest of your gap year style. Hardeep, what about you?
Yeah, I feel like the best thing about the the game plan was that it taught us things that we don't really learn in high school, or pretty much even in university, I feel like, because like, yeah, financial literacy, like no one's ever taught us that. And I feel like that's just such an important thing to learn. And like, especially if like your parents didn't teach you that, I think it's something that you should definitely learn yourself. And gap year is like probably the best time for you to learn that. And that was my personally most favorite thing I learned in my gap year is the personal finance things, how to manage my money, my budget, and yeah, just an emphasis on that from the game plan was really helpful. And on top of that, I feel like these other pillars that were about finding yourself, and there was this other one that finding a mentor and having mentorship meetings with them and whatnot. I feel like um I feel like these just having these like meetings with my mentor and just having an emphasis on how important it is to find a mentor, that was super important too, because yeah, like you don't learn these things in high school or anywhere, but it's like it's important to connect with people outside of your guidance counselors and outside of just people who you know from your school. And I feel like one thing I realized through this mentorship reach out was that people are more willing to help you than you might think. Like I just reach out to people on LinkedIn all the time, and yeah, sometimes people don't reply, but most often people do. And yeah, it's great. Like I've had so many coffee chats with people since like the mentorship pillar, and since I learned things from the mentorship pillar, and I still keep having them, and I still keep learning so many cool things. So yeah, the game plan definitely really emphasized a lot of great things for me, and that are important that traditional education system doesn't teach us.
That's amazing. I love hearing those things because that's what it was designed for, was making sure that you guys were building a sense of who you are and having some of those like actual functional skills. Like how many times I'm a biologist by school, and like how many times have I looked in a microscope and done a stipple drawing of a cell since graduating? A big fat zero. But working through mentorship relationships, managing my money, having a sense of who I am and what I want out of life, those are daily skills. And it's a disservice to not be able to actually explore those. And you can do it with a self-help book, but it's so much nicer when there's some curated conversations that are happening and resources that are there that allow you to do it in a way that fits your personality. So super cool. We're coming to the end of our time. So what are some of your parting words of wisdom now that you are officially a Gap Year alum? What would you like to impart on this year's incoming cohort of Gappers?
All right, I can go first. I feel like gap year is gonna be a lot of time. So I feel like I mentioned before, definitely have some type of commitment that is like regular and that kind of keeps you accountable in all of your other pursuits. And I think this one small thing would just like really structure your gap year, like uh just in one go. And another one would be to like surround yourself with media and resources that will help you become the person you want to become. So for example, like if you're into entrepreneurship, or if you're into tech, read about that. If you're into something else like art, to read about that. Just surround yourself with media and things like that, because the thoughts you gain from these places, pretty much become your mindset. And yeah, that is at the end of the day what you want. And last piece of advice I'd give is give yourself some alone time, I feel like in gap year you're gonna have that anyway, and I feel like just embrace that, go on long walks and stuff. And I feel like alone time teaches you a lot. Like before in high school, you have this thing like, being alone is a loser type of thingy. I feel like it's pretty damn cool in your gap year. You just learn way too much about yourself, and it's really peaceful. And yeah, I just, even today, like after my gap year, like even when I'm at university, I go on walks by myself all the time. It's, yeah, I'd highly suggest doing that.
Awesome. Samira, what are your parting words of wisdom?
I'd say don't be too hard on yourself. Don't force yourself to like overcome things too fast. For me, it was like the anxiety of applying to university, choosing a program, um, and also like choosing things to do in my gap year. And I think I was too hard on myself and I got like in a low mood because of that. And I wish I would have been able to not compare myself too much, because many people are doing so many different things with their gap year, and it's easy to get lost in other people's stories while you have a completely different situation. And for me, at least, it was like coming out of school being super stressed. I wanted to like go out and do so many things, but I wasn't ready to do that. And I needed to give myself time to be able to be like have clarity and be like calmer again. So I'd say don't be too hard on yourself, don't compare yourself too much. And I think that's when you'll be able to get the plans for your gap year that are the most aligned with who you are and what you need right now. And yeah, I also think that it's cool to have something that is structured, as Hardeep said, because at least in the beginning, when everything is super messy, it's great to have a bit of a guide, which can come from the game plan and can also come with like a program, even if it's short. If you want to do many things with your gap year, you can start with a short program at the beginning that like gives you a head start into what's going to happen, and just like feel what how you react to this new adventure of a gap year.
I love that, not comparing yourself. And everybody is on their very own personal journey. And sometimes we let that kind of Instagram mentality, that Hollywood version of a gap year, kind of creep in, that everybody is doing these big sexy trips or starting these big giant organizations that they're going to sell for millions of dollars. And when we actually sit back, and if we're not doing those things, we can feel like we're less than, that we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. But as long as you are doing what you're doing with intention, you are doing the right thing. So if your intention, and this is why the broken record player is coming back, this is why your goals are so important. Because if your intention is to de-stress, then sitting on the couch and watching some Netflix is not a bad thing. If that is your goal to help you because that is where you are at, then that is part of your plan. That is your active plan. You are not using Netflix as an escape because you're bored or you don't have anything to do. You're doing it as a mental health piece for you. And knowing where you are at, being very honest with yourself about where you are at, and then setting those goals of where you want to be, then you can really set yourself up for a really, really great year. So Samira and Hardeep, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your stories, your anecdotes, your insights with this up and coming cohort. They're so lucky to have learned from you. And it's just so cool seeing you guys a year later, knowing that you entered at this exact point last year. And now you are on to other things, but you are still very much part of the CanGap family. We love you. Thank you for being here. And I'm going to kick you off the stage now.
Bye. Thank you.
There we go. So amazing to hear from them. We are moving into sessions now. So we've got 3 sessions happening. We've got entrepreneurship with Jazz. We've got investing with AJ, and we've got a travel chat with me. So give me 1 second and I will head over. Thank you so much for your comments. Sorry we couldn't get to quite all of them, but I read them and I love them. And that is amazing. Maria Jose, they are in Discord. So if you want to come join them, find them in Discord. I believe their handles are actually, I'm not sure if Hardeep is in there, but yeah, I think he is. Hardeep and Samira are in Discord. So you can do that. I love it. Oh, thanks for quoting me, Emma. That brings a smile to my face. All right. I will see you in the sessions.